Hi Scrubs, I hope you're well. So this video is requested by Lindsey R. In this video I'm going to be talking about how to get into top teams, whether they're just elite teams, number one teams, or highly ranked teams. Now, I've talked about how to get into teams before. This is going to focus a little bit more on those highly competitive teams. Not everything that I mention is going to cover everything that every single team will ask for. Some might ask for another 5 things, some of them might ask for half of the things that I mention. And none of these that I discuss are in any particular order because some teams value different skills more than others. Now, one of the first things that's very important with any competitive team is to prove that you can keep pace with that team. Now, when I say keep pace, what I mean is if they require you to do so many blobs within a certain space of time that you can match that. So say, for example, they want to have a blob done in 10 minutes or 5 minutes, okay? You cannot go to them and be like, it takes me 3 hours to blob, can I join? Because they're just going to be like, no, we don't have time. Okay. Now, in some cases, if somebody sees a lot of potential, they might spend the time to train you, okay? But in a lot of these really fast-paced, highly elite teams, they want people who are ready to go, okay? They are not messing about. They don't want somebody who's going to come in and kind of be half bothering themselves about it. They want somebody that's there, that can go and is ready to go. So it's not to say to give up, okay, but make sure that you know that you can keep pace with that. The next thing is being reliable, and this sort of follows on from keeping pace. You need to be reliable. You need to show that you're reliable. You need to have a track record of being reliable, because if you just go in and you take a blop and then you disappear for 3 days because you didn't have sufficient internet or whatever, that's not going to be looked on as being reliable. And okay, your internet might have cut out, it happens to us all, but if that is their first, I guess, experience of you, it's not going to go down well. So you need to show that you have a reliable track record, that you are online, you're frequently online, you're on for enough time to basically put time into a team like that, because highly competitive teams are very time consuming. I know this personally. It's not something to just be like, oh, I'll do this for a couple of minutes. No, this takes up a lot of time. You need to know that you're there and you're ready to commit that amount of time, and they're going to want to know that too. So the other thing that kind of follows on is gaining experience. So as I sort of mentioned then when I was talking about keeping pace and showing you're reliable, or make sure you have some experience to back you up, okay? Whether that's being shown in another team that you've been involved in or something like that, or maybe a team that you're still involved in, because some people juggle multiple teams. You need to show that, okay? You need to show that you have experience. And if you don't have experience, get it. Gain it. Learn from people. I learned from an international player. That's how I learned originally. That's how I was taught. And, that was so valuable to me because she'd learned from some of the best. And now I was learning from one of the best. And it just, it rolls on. It does make such a difference. Not everybody's going to be willing to put in the time of day, but if you show that you are genuinely enthusiastic, that you're reliable, you're there and you really, really want to do this, some people will be like, okay, I'll show you how to do this. Not everybody. Some people are going to be like, no, go away, because I'm not going to give you the time of day. Some people will be like that. But if you're lucky, you might be able to get it like that. Now, the next thing is, obviously, and this kind of comes with all that, know your stuff, okay? Whether it's full games, how to block any breed, how to fill competitions, how to do those things that are necessary to be in that competitive team. Know your stuff. You need to know it back to front. You can't be turning around to a highly competitive team going, which competitions do I go into? Because then they're going to be like, what? You need to know your basics, inside out and back to front. You really, really do. Because they are not going to, in a lot of cases, spend the time of day. It's a bit different if they're teaching you techniques that they use and those are specific to the team. They're probably going to do that, but for the basic things that they expect, that you know how to blop, you know how to do full games properly, you know how to fill, you know how to find horses in competitions whenever it's needed. That is stuff that you need to know before you go to a highly competitive team like this. Now the next thing is, and this isn't really a skill or as such, it's more something you need to be aware of. Most of them are going to expect shared access to your account, okay? Now if you apply to a team and you're not actually comfortable having shared access, then I would question why you're even going for that, because highly competitive teams, do generally expect that you're going to give shared account access. It's not to say just let anybody have your shared account access, don't, but be sure that you're happy and you're comfortable with it. that's definitely something to be sure of, because you don't want to give shared access to somebody that you don't trust at the start. Like, never give it to somebody you don't trust, okay? And obviously know that you can trust them. Make sure that they have a reliable track record, or that they're trustworthy, and they can be relied upon to be careful with your account. And obviously, if there's certain things you don't want done on your account, discuss that with them and say, right, these are things I don't want you doing on my account. Make that clear, okay? Because I've known times where people have gone into somebody's shared and used horses that they didn't want them using, and you need to tell people, because some people don't know. Some people are just going to be like, right, okay, I'm going to use these horses to fill, and maybe you didn't want those horses used to fill, so be aware of that. The next thing is they might question how involved you are with other teams. So, for example, if you have 10 teams that you're currently in and you're applying for your 11th, unless they see that you're doing really, really, really well in all of them, they might go, have they spread themselves a bit too thin? Have they put too much in different pots? Like, can they really give the time and the effort needed for this competitive team if they've got all these other teams going on as well? So if you do have more than one team, just make sure that you can back that up. You can show that you actually have the time to dedicate to those teams, because you can't turn around in a week and say, you know what guys, I can't really do this. You need to know that you can do it before you do it, okay? Because that shows that you've thought about this and you know that you can do it. So the next thing I would sort of say is get faster at bluffing, okay? Just always think of different ways to make your bluffing faster, okay? Because the faster you are, the better you can show to them that you really are thinking about things and that you have a good technique, and they might show you things to improve. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just know that you can get faster and find out how you can get faster. Think about all the little things that will make it quicker to get those bluffs done, because the fastest bluffers are usually in the fastest teams, the most competitive teams. Now, one thing I will mention is karma. Now, this isn't necessarily going to apply to every single team. Some teams probably maybe won't be massively fussed on karma, like if they know that it's just maybe you've lost karma for a really silly thing. But generally teams are not going to be okay if you don't have 10 karma. So some of them will just not have that. So my advice is don't apply to anything unless you have 10. Now, obviously the next thing is know why you want to join that team, because don't just be applying to every elite team that's out there. Know why you want to join that particular competitive team. Maybe you get along well with a couple of the members outside of that, and you would love to work with them, things like that. Just know why you're applying to it. Also be aware of what your weaknesses and strengths are in the game, because if you're really strong at something but you're weak at something else, maybe say, okay, well, I want to get better in this. Who out there is really good at the things that I'm not? Learn from them, okay? That's a really good way. The next thing is get references, because most of the big teams now will ask for references, because they need to know that you're reliable. They need to know that you're not going to disappear for 3 weeks, just unannounced. I mean, like, as I mentioned, I've had times where I've lost internet, I've had times where somebody's been sick and I haven't been able to get on, but you need to show that you are going to be reliable. Don't just ask a random person to give you a reference, okay? Don't just message somebody that you don't know to give you a reference. Only ask people you actually know, who can really show them that you really are all of these things, that they're going to respect that person is telling the truth, and therefore that you are what you say you are. Don't ever lie. Don't ever lie. That's another thing. The next thing is expect to probably get a trial blub if you've been reasonably successful in applying to one of these top teams. Trial blubs allow them to actually show, for you to show that you are all of these things. You didn't lie on your application. That's important. Another thing I would do is make sure that you know what their rules are, what requirements they have, before you really agree to join. Because there might be things that you can't commit to. Maybe you do have stuff going on outside, or maybe you do have more teams and maybe you can't commit doing 20 blups a week, okay? Know what is going to be required of you before you jump in the deep end, so to speak. And the last thing I'm going to mention is obviously resources. You need to show that you have the resources to actually be in this competitive team through passes. Maybe your EC, you need to have enough boxes. Your Equus, your horses such as your fillers. You need to show that you have that there, that you actually can keep up to, up with 20 blops a week, for example, in a team. I'm just giving 20 blops as an example. Some teams are doing way more than that in one single day. Massively way more than that. And if you're a part of a big team, that's usually spread over a much larger number of people and it's not as bad. But if you're in a highly competitive smaller team, you are going to be expected to probably do more. So these are just some of the things to bear in mind of, prove that you can keep pace, show that you're reliable. If you haven't got experience, gain experience before you go to apply things. Know your stuff. Have the resources like the passes and the gwysts and the horses and the fillers to actually support this competitive breeding. Are you comfortable with shared access? They might have questions of, how involved you are with other teams. Get faster at blopping. Always find ways of improving. Make sure you keep your karma in good order. Know why you're joining that team, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and work on your weaknesses. And also on your strengths as well, because you can get better at things. Make sure that your references, are in good standing. Don't use somebody as a reference just because you think they'll be a good reference, but they don't actually know you. Make sure don't lie on your application in any way. Expect that you're probably going to get a trial block to show that you actually are all the things that you've promised. Know what they're going to require of you and rules and things like that. So this is just a general all-round thing on what elite teams might ask of you. This is not necessarily all the things they might ask of you. Some teams will ask for more. So I'm going to leave that there. Thank you to Lindsey R for requesting the video. I hope you had a lovely day, scrubs, and bye!